measure it flat, it contradicts that. I'm spitting flat facts and that. And I know you don't like that. Google Maps is flat, it presents elevation profiles like that. I'm a spitting flat earth king. Sentence has a ring, doing my own thing. If earth was a big roast chicken, factually finger licking chicken, we just got the measurements missing. I'm spitting eggs and begs, begging the question lesson. I've said it before, time after time. I'm the spitting flat earth king of rhyme.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a coffee, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using stock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now we are joined by Neil, click OK, and a whole bunch of people in the Flipside Discord server. So, welcome one and all.
You, how are you?
I'm all right. Everyone seems to have vanished. There was several people. There was like 5 or 6 people in the G Plus panel, and then I went live and everyone's vanished. It's like, just 2 of you now. What's going on?
He'll be back.
How are you all doing in the Discord server? Good to see you, Flat Arthur.
Hey, Nathan. Hello, everyone.
Hello. I got praise over the weekend, which I was definitely not expecting. So, I kind of cut loose in terms of my disdain towards the betas and gammas that we have to deal with on a regular basis. That is to say, the snot-faced little lying twats that we have to cope with. Why should we have to cope with them is my first question. And the answer is we don't. We don't have to associate with these people who are seeking cope after I point out that they're utilising flat earth measurements. In their mind, it's like a Scooby-Doo episode where we're those meddling kids that have gotten away with their use of flat earth measurements if it wasn't for us. Therefore, if we can only end Nathan, they'll get away with using the flat earth measurements. And you're like, let them. It's not going to change how Earth's dealt with. So who cares? Why would we want to associate ourselves with these individuals anymore? We don't need to. It's not worth the stress and aggravation of being lied to repeatedly. Now, the praise I got was, surprisingly, for me describing how these people would have been treated in school, or, if they were to commit any crimes, in prison. Now, the reality of the situation is that the person that ends up breaking these people's noses would be the one that ended up in jail. But metaphorically, this is how they would have been treated in high school. That is to say, they'd have only got away with being snot-faced little liars a couple of times before one of the bigger kids got them and dunked their head down the toilet. Now, I thought that would get me a load of grief and aggravation. It didn't. It got me praise. Now, I'm not inciting violence. I don't suggest anybody goes out there actually breaking anybody's noses. Far from it. What I'm trying to do is highlight to the audience that there's a group of people out there that have only decided to behave in the way that they do because they can, quote, get away with being the way they are when they're online. So I'm going to start highlighting to those people that you getting away with it is you getting away with not having your nose broken by somebody who gets pissed off with you in society. Now, having met some of these individuals and seen what they're actually like, they are genuinely, as I described, the gammas and the betas of this world, the secret kings and the pathetic cucks, the weak men in society, the weak men that everybody overlooks, the women ignore. These are the men we are dealing with. That's just a fact. But because they've got a brave pill in them and an internet between them and the person they're talking to, they feel that they can be cheeky and lie. Well, I'm going to start highlighting it to them. In reality, you would be given short shrift by the people who are bigger than you. That's the reality. The people who the rest of society does like. Now, it's not a pleasant situation to face that men are aggressive. They are. And it does often result in consequences for those aggressive men. Now, I didn't expect to be getting praise for describing the aggression that these people would face in reality when they're deceitful, when they're disingenuous, when they misrepresent their opponent. But it is just a fact. That's the life that we all have to face. Men are men. That's how we behave. Sometimes, as I say, gets those men in trouble. I've been in my fair share of it. I've spent enough time in the insides of cells to know what a police station looks like, to know how irritating it is to wait for hours and hours and hours to be questioned about the person's nose you've broken. But I've broken a few noses in my time. I understand the consequences. So I'm going to disseminate that fact. I know what I am, and I know what the people I'm dealing with are. They're irritating twats. Gammers, beaters, and cucks. That's what they are. So I'm going to start pointing it out to them. Yeah, you can get away with utilising flat earth measurements here on the internet. And if it wasn't for those meddling kids, you'd have got away with it. Now, the meddling kids are the big kids that would be dunking your heads down the toilets in high school for being an irritating twat. That's the reality. Having your brave pills and hiding behind a million miles of fibre won't change what you are. Now, simultaneously, there is a certain degree of self-recognition that has to go on. I am inconsequential when it comes to Earth measurements. 10 years ago, when I was doing Tracking the Sun on a Flat Earth Live, I thought I was the most important person. That something I was doing that was really consequential to the world, that I was making a difference. I wasn't. I was delusional. Me measuring Earth flat, I'm not. Me making the flat maps with the flat miles and the flat I'm not. Me measuring elevation angles, I'm not. Me flying in level flight, I'm not. I'm not doing any of those things. Those things will continue to be done, regardless of me pointing them out to somebody who's got a bit of cognitive dissonance because they were taught in science class that they're on a ball, while they were taught in geography class that we measure Earth flat. The deceit, if you want to perceive it to be such, that's to say the deceit of the lie of a globe, will fall. It is inevitable. But it doesn't need any assistance. It doesn't need me to do anything. And in trying, all I will receive is ridicule, persecution, and snot-nosed gammers, beaters, and cucks telling me that I need my channel shut down. Because why? They've put me on a pedestal like I am consequential. Like I'm gonna be changing things by pulling their masks off? No. The people who are measuring elevation angles from surface level or sea level will still continue to do so. The people who measure the height of the land with respect to the sea level will still continue to do so. The people who measure their altitude with respect to the sea level will still continue to do so, regardless of anything I say. That's it. This lie, if you want to perceive it to be such, will fail eventually. I don't need to do anything. Earth will always be measured flat. And
That's
it always
correct.
was. Go ahead, Neil.
No, somebody else was trying to get in. Go ahead.
No, they weren't. It was just you.
Well, I said that's correct, and they wouldn't be able to speak to you the way they speak to you if you were face to face. I'm having a conversation with somebody, and they're just going to talk right through me when I'm in the middle of something, but they could do it on the internet. It's no respect.
Right. But, by contrast, and I didn't say this in the pre-show, I've put myself in that position. I said this in the pre-show. Moving forward, I will be promoting a book. And that book will talk about how Earth is measured flat. Now. That's in the present, right now. People who are measuring Earth with consequences for their actions measure it flat. There aren't any consequences to suggesting with flat Earth measurements that Earth is spherical. There's no practical application to that beyond explaining epicycles with retrograde motion. It doesn't even do a great job of that. But that's its design intention. That's what the system of sphericity and heliocentric motion was developed for. And that is its only, if you want to call it that, practical application. Beyond that, there is no practical application for the sphericity in the heliocentric worldview. It doesn't give you anything. It's not useful. The world is dealt with flat, measured flat, flown on flat, sailed upon flat, and built on flat. Well, that's never going to change. It always was being built on flat, sailed on flat, flown over flat. It always will be built on flat, sailed on flat, flown on flat, mapped flat, charted flat, dealt with flat. Because Earth's flat. Nothing you do will change that. You pointing out to a person that believes it because they were taught it in science class will only get you mocked. Will only be you as the Scooby-Doo character. Because suddenly the guy that you're pulling the mask off who wants to keep his cognitive dissonance or her cognitive dissonance about Earth being spherical sees you as a bad guy pulling off their mask. Now, the mask that they were wearing was inconsequential also. It's all well and good me saying it's inconsequential whether or not I do anything. I'm not making any of these measurements, but neither are they. And if they are, they'll be dealing with it flat too. If they're suggesting sphericity, there's a good chance that they'll be leaning into the flat Earth prerequisite measurements that are used to make their sphericity belief a reality. It never was, and it never will be. The only reality is the one we measure, and that is flat. You're not measuring it, and I'm not measuring it. If I was, there'd be a reason. Like I might not die at sea if I measure Earth flat with elevation angles to the stars, so I can find out where I am. But I'm not erecting any buildings and I'm not flying any planes or sailing any boats. So the idea of flat Earth has been turned into a bunch of conspiratards who have come together to express their belief in a flat Earth, to contrast the belief in a globe. Geography class was still being taught while we expressed our belief in a flat Earth to contrast the globe Earth belief. And it was still being taught in regards to the measurements of the flat surface that we all have to utilise if we do anything practical. So, to summarise, if you're in a position where suddenly you're in a row with somebody else, ask yourself, what consequence does it have if I completely concede their faith? Okay, we're on a ball. Now what? Anything changed? No. But the antithesis is also true. You're led to believe that if everybody suddenly woke up tomorrow and realised Earth was flat, thousands of jobs would be lost. No. I found out it's flat, looked into it and realised it was being measured flat in past history, is being measured flat today and will always be measured flat in the future. No jobs were lost. I just received ridicule for it. So the only person that received any detrimental effects was me. No other jobs were lost. The lie continues if you want to perceive it to be a lie. So who cares? It makes no difference to how we practically utilise Earth's surface level. And we do practically use surface level. That's how we measure Earth. Just not me, and probably not you. Yeah, we need to make it about groups. Because then it's us versus them. Our belief versus their belief. And there's a lot of people that I'm falling out with currently on my own perceived to be side, because I'm saying there isn't a side. I'm saying you're not on my side when you talk about 9/11 or chemtrails or Jesus. You want to perceive that because I can have those conversations that we are on the same side. We're not. Now, the fact of the matter is that the very limited audience that I do get are mostly conspiratards. And I'm pissing them all off currently by saying what you do only serves to offer the public a reason to hate you and the group that you are associated with called Flat Earthers, and allow the geography of Earth to remain flat and be utilised by your opponents, the globe believers. Up until 2025, it was accepted and acceptable for a globe believer to utilise flat Earth measurements to infer their ball when arguing with you and your belief in a flat Earth, while you told them that you saw too far. Both parties would measure the distance horizontally and go to maps that used scales that were horizontal, that had been measured from Earth's surface. Both parties would use sea level and angles to form the Polaris-based systems that created the globe. Without a hint of irony, neither side would ever highlight it. So then all you are left with is both sides having the capability of utilising the geography of Earth's flat surface to argue for or against a ball. That's all that's ever happened. From 2025 onwards, The futile nature of arguing this position has become most apparent to me and the people around me. Who cares if we argue about whether or not we can convert flat Earth elevation angle measurements into sphericity, create a model, call it the WGS84, and then ask next man if he appreciates how spherical that model is. 2024, everybody would have argued, no, the model's wrong. Let me show you how far we can see. See, we're seeing too far beyond the horizon. Who cares? The distance that you're going to infer you can see to or not was measured flat. Go look at a map. What direction are we looking? South? That's flat also. Everything about the way we argued, utilised and whistled past the flat Earth prerequisites we were all using. Not just the flat earthers, the globers as well. They need it to be flat too. Now you pulling off their mask and saying, look, you're using flat Earth measurements. So what? They weren't actually out at sea when you were arguing with them, were they? They weren't erecting any buildings when you told them that they're using flat Earth surface level to know the altitude. They weren't actually in straight and level flight, parallel with surface level, having been told to be there on the aircraft they're not flying. So it's just a group arguing. And the consequences are zero. The consequences of an actual pilot suggesting that there's a void opening up ahead of him, there's a space that they could fly into, could result in death. So they don't. They're ascribed to flight level and they stick to it. They measure Earth flat, and if they don't, people die. It's that simple. You arguing about it not being a ball had no influence on it. You were only here because your path to here, flat earthing, was one that was brought there by conspiracy subjects, be it subliminal messaging, 9/11, Sandy Hook, JFK, moon landings, you name it. You were put in the position to argue for something that was already the case without recognising the measurements so that it could be deemed worthy of debate, and it never was. Both parties used flat Earth measurements the whole time. Here's some on screen. This is the ball Earth utilisation of a 40-degree measurement in a flat direction from a flat plane. Those are the measurements of Earth. Your ball that you believed was worthy of arguing about relied on the measurements being flat. So there never was a discussion. The geography class taught you how flat it gets measured. The science class told you it was a ball.
Should have never been in science class.
Yeah, the science class is a complete hoax. The science class was there to create an illusion of empiricism when lying to you about flat Earth measurements that create ball-shaped worlds for you to believe you're living on. But in reality, there was no cause and effect reasoning, there was no hypothesis construction, there was no actualization of hypotheses. That's experiment. There was just the book with a picture of a molten iron core in the middle of it.
So basically, it was a pseudoscience class.
Yes. Pseudoscience told you you were on a ball. Geography told you how to measure Earth flat. Now all we face is liars who want to get around the awful problem of it being required to be measured flat. I don't want to be around those people anymore, frankly. Those people aren't pleasant people to be around.
Yeah, but they want to be around you, Nathan.
Yeah, so I'm going to make it more and more clear every time that it comes to head that somebody wants to tell me that I've got a mantra because I'm describing how flat directionality is. No, I am inconsequential to how flat south is. It's just a direction. It's not me seeking cope. Far from it. I have not reached the pinnacle of riches. I don't have a Lamborghini by talking about flat Earth. In fact, I'm heavily censored in the subject. So if you want to go and affirm your bias by using flat Earth measurements without me pulling that mask off, then you can get away with it without us meddling kids interfering with the use of flat Earth measurements. but it is inconsequential. Me saying Earth is measured flat doesn't change how flights work, doesn't change how boats navigate, doesn't change how flat maps are, and it doesn't change how flat South is. Nothing I say in this regard is consequential. You think it does because you are projecting your desire to be important onto me. Yeah? So I'm the antithesis, I'm the antichrist when it comes to your use of flat Earth measurements. If I wasn't pointing out how flat you require Earth to be when you suggest it's ball-shaped, would mean that it would be ball-shaped after you use your flat Earth measurements because I'm not pointing it out. You're delusional. But yeah, you're putting me up on a pedestal. That's all you're doing. And there's a certain apathy that is required towards these people moving forward because I don't care about them. They care about me. They want me to be wrong. And me being wrong is irrelevant also. If I'm wrong about how I understand latitude to work, does it matter? It'll still be flat Earth prerequisite elevation angle measurements, won't it? Regardless of my incorrect description of them. They'll still be used to derive circles of equal elevation and write on flat maps little circles to find your fix. That's how it's done. Me describing it is inconsequential. If you want to infer that you're on a sphere that's got drop over distance, then you will require the distance be horizontal and measured flat. For you to infer that there's a drop with respect to the horizontal distances that we measure, me saying, well, we measure horizontal distances won't alter that we measure horizontal distances. We do. Miles have been measured for the maps. The scales are all flat. We've already measured the Earth. It's flat. That's how it works. That's how it's used. That's how maps operate. I'm not the arbiter of them. I'm not a cartographer. I didn't invent the compass. But the compass definitely requires flat Earth directionality be adhered to. The miles on maps are flat. The surveys are from sea level. And the flights are with respect to it when parallel with the ground. Those are all just flat Earth prerequisites that are used to stop people from dying. No Nathan Oakley intervention was needed. So moving forward, what does that tell you? The lies, if you want to perceive them that way, will fall. Can't be on a ball if we're measuring it flat. And we are.
Well, I think that's why their focus is on you, because they're making it about the people. You know, if we get the TFE has caused Karen to turn, and what's his name, Celebrate Truth, and all these other people that left. Now, if they can only get you to be proven wrong, that would be more of an exodus. You understand?
Yes, delusional. In their mind, right, the people who felt comfort in Jaren changing sides, they made Jaren consequential to the discussion. Discussion, it's measured. It's not about discussing it. It's not about what Jaren perceives or Celebrate Truth Robbie Davidson perceives. And I'm saying that's the same for me. I am inconsequential when it comes to this subject. Doesn't matter what I say about it. It will be dealt with flat, regardless of me pointing it out. So let's say I turn tomorrow. You'll get about 30 seconds of pain relief out of that. If I say tomorrow, yeah, it's a ball, I was wrong. Will it change that horizontal distance measurement is used to derive the drop over distance that you think the Earth has? No, the distance is flat. You require it to be that way for you to infer your ball faith. Oh, I would have got away with using those flat Earth measurements if it wasn't for that meddling Nathan. But he's not here anymore, so I can use horizontal distance measurements and infer a drop from them to say Earth's a ball. And look, no one's called me on it. So it's a ball then? No. You used horizontal distance measurements. Me not being there to pull the mask off your face won't change that you're wearing a sad little mask. Now you, as the individual, want to project the consequences of realising this awful fact onto me. And when it's successfully projected onto me, if you can make me go away, the consequences go... No, they don't. That's delusional.
Yeah, you got people in chat saying Friday was a great show.
I disagree, but it's my own fault. Yeah, I put myself in that position because I want ratings. And it's vanity. The fine line between love and hate is always going to be real. Now, me going out and seeking the people who oppose us is me still seeking the same energy that I'd achieve from people praising me. So I've got to stop looking for both. Immediately after making this example, somebody from the Discord server pointed it out. But if you go to these servers, people will love you. You'll gain popularity. Nah. Gotta relinquish both. It works both ways. I can't point my finger at you and tell you down the barrel of this camera that you are inconsequential when it comes to Earth being measured flat. It'll be measured flat regardless of you knowing this. Therefore, you making a difference. Other people have leveraged the consensus to believe they're on a ball and hope that they can still get away with using the geographical utilization of a flat plane to create that ball. But it wouldn't matter if I hadn't have just said that sentence. That would still be the case. Therefore, the perceived lie of the globe will not last forever. It can't. There's nothing that I say that can change that. Now, how long it takes, I have no bearing over either. This idea, this notion that I can influence the world into recognising it's flat. Why? The people who recognise it aren't out flying planes or building buildings. The people who recognise it aren't measuring sea level, are they? So it doesn't matter if you know it's flat or not. You can be kept subservient in your globe faith. Me? Making you aware of how flat it is doesn't make any difference. If you're going to go out and practically do anything, you will utilise Earth flat anyway. You must. But it didn't matter that I didn't tell you. Not knowing made no difference to how surface level is dealt with, did it? So beyond me and my own vanity, oh, look, I, Nathan Oakley, have made the world aware of how flat it is. Really? So you created sea level? Did you measure sea level, Nathan? No, I didn't do anything of that kind. What, did you fly over it flat? No, I'm not a pilot. Did you make any maps? No, none of them are mine. But they are all flat. But they've come from globe projections. Yeah, created with flat Earth prerequisite angles to the stars. But again, were you lost at sea when having this argument? No, you weren't, were you? But like my sister, if you were, you'd be measuring Earth flat also, so that you didn't die. When there's consequences, Earth's flat. When there's a debate, it's us versus them, and the hope is nobody notices how flat both sides need Earth to be measured. That's the game. Well, don't hate the player, hate the game. And that's all it is. A game. A game where you get to use geography to believe you're on a ball, and I get to sniff my own farts because I tell you that you're wrong. But it wouldn't have mattered if you were right or wrong. Earth would have still been measured flat the same way it always was, regardless of us having this discussion. So I'm inconsequential to the facts in the matter. Convincing others that are also inconsequential because they're not dealing with Earth in any practical way that Earth's flat is also inconsequential. I watched Level Earth Observer react to Joe Rogan getting triggered when one of his guests pointed out that people get triggered when flat Earth comes up. And as I listened to him describing the curve of the horizon from the ISS, I asked myself, what practical application does this have? What's Joe going to use this information for? Is he going to build something? Is he going to fly? Is he going to sail? Is he going to produce a map? Is he going to do anything with this information? No. He's only going to stem the flow of disdain he has for his guest and affirm his own bias in his religious belief. That's all him fighting for a globe does, because there's no practical use for his belief at all, is there? It only serves to stem his flow of cognitive dissonance. That's all it achieved. So you've got to start relinquishing it. You've got to start putting your hands in your hair and going, I don't make any difference to this subject. Yes, I appreciate it's measured flat, but I didn't need to know that. And me knowing hasn't lost anybody their job. Hasn't changed anything, in fact. It will always be flat. That's how it's measured.
Yeah, and every pilot, every day, they utilize Earth flat.
Yeah. But it appeals to a certain sense of self-importance when we have these discussions. I said this in the pre-show too. When I was tracking the sun on a Flat Earth live 10 years ago, I thought I was doing something really important. And likewise, more recently, Simon Dan felt the same. What did he achieve? Did he give you anything practical or fruitful from him measuring Earth flat with elevation angles? What did he actually achieve? Did we get some new maps? Did we get a new travel system? Did we explain retrograde motion any better? No, nothing. But in his and my own fart-sniffing way, we thought we were important when we measured Earth flat. He was measuring it flat to affirm his globe belief. I was measuring it flat to affirm my flat Earth belief. We both thought, I'm really important. I'm making a difference. No, you're not. When it comes to actually doing things that stop people dying, Earth's dealt with as a flat plane, just not by you, and not by me. So put me up on your pedestal. Imagine that getting rid of me will change how flat the Earth is practically used. It won't. You're delusional. You're just projecting. You want your position to be important. Now, you've been trained that by making your opponent wrong, you get to be right. So you need me on a pedestal, don't you? So you can make me wrong. Well, I'm going to take that away from you too. Doesn't matter if I'm wrong. I have no bearing on how Earth is measured. Putting me on a pedestal to make me wrong, to make you right, which is all this ever was, won't make Earth anything more than it is measured to be. And that's flat. So yeah, the psychology of it is interesting. I think that's something we can talk about till the ends of the earth. How interesting it is that people need to make their opponents wrong so they can avoid talking about the actual measurements. Because you don't have to be right if you're just making your opponent wrong. As long as they're wrong, you are by default right. Yeah, okay. Well, you've been trained to believe that. It's just not the case though. Because your being right also relied on the flat earth to be measured, didn't it? And you can stick your fingers in your ears all you like and go, la, 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 I'm not listening to you describe a horizontal plane of reference for surface level and mile measurements. I can get those measurements from a Trundle wheel. You can tell yourself those things all you like.
Yeah, but the sun is going in two different directions, Nathan.
Again, ask yourself this question if you're into these discussions with people and they're telling you that the sun's going in different directions. Say, how's this practically applied to my life? In other words, we can now weaponize the very first question we were all asked when we got here as flat earthers, in quotes, flat earthers. Earth being flat has nothing to do with you as an earther. It's not about people. But ask yourself, what was the first question you got asked when you put it to next man? Or what difference does it make? I'll still have to pay my bills tomorrow if Earth's flat. You can weaponize that. Ask the person who says that the sun's going in different directions. What difference does this make? If you're right, let's say I accept it, carte blanche, like our discussion on the matter has any bearing on what the sun does. It doesn't. But let's just say I accept it. Okay, you say it goes in different directions. And how is this practically applied? Well, it means it's a ball. No. How is it practically applied? What's it being used for? Your faith in that making it a ball. That's how I buy it. I accept it all. Show me where it's practically applied. How's this useful? Beyond convincing yourself that you are on a ball. With flat earth elevation angle measurements of a sun that's moving, alleged to be in two different directions, when it only goes from east to west. There isn't any. All practical applications of Earth and measurements are flat. Surface level, sea level, eye level, flight level. These are all what are actually practically applied to stop people dying. Elevation angles, elevation itself. These are all flat Earth prerequisites. And they're practically applied to prevent death. It's a very serious business, understanding how flat Earth is. There's a reason why people like NASA profess to how flat Earth must be dealt with, how stationary it must be. Because in some capacity, they're dealing with people's lives. They don't want to kill people. So they'll say it like it is. Earth's dealt with flat and stationary. Because it is. Don't need NASA to confirm what is practically applied by pilots. Just listen to ground control. Ascend to flight level, and then they give a number. It's what it is. It's flight level. It's parallel to the surface level, measured from sea level. They're flying with regards to maps that have been charted with elevation angles. Everything about Earth, in practical application, is flat. Nothing you do or I do will change that.
That's what drives me crazy when they say, well, pilots got to come out and say it. What do you mean? They're demonstrating it every day.
Yeah, again, it's back to them. In their mind, if a pilot says it, what all you're doing is putting the pilot on a pedestal, like he has any bearing on what Earth is and how Earth is dealt with. The pilot has no bearing on how Earth is dealt with when he's told to ascend to a given flight level and maintain it. He just maintains straight and level flight because he's been told to, or she's been told to, by ground control. Those are the rules that you must abide by if you're going to fly a plane. Their opinion on the matter is inconsequential to how Earth is actually dealt with. Again, with the cartographers. If a cartographer who's measured Earth in the 60s, like in that Pathé video with the stereoscopic vision that they used, and the surveying that they used to survey the heights with respect to the measured sea level. If any of those individuals turn around and say, yeah, but it's a ball, it's really big. Like, well, how do we practically apply your words when your measurements are flat? Your excuses for how flat they are don't change how flat they are. How practically we can apply surface level and sea level altitude, flight level, elevation angles, all of these things are what they are. Doesn't need some dude or girl to tell you how ball-shaped it isn't and justify why. Who cares? It's still being practically applied to a flat planar surface when doing things and preventing death. Who cares? Us arguing about it means nothing.
Yeah, but that drives me crazy. That's why you got a guy like Bev who's claiming that he's a surveyor and he measured Earth not to be flat. Now, that's just disinformation. That's incorrect.
I mean, he can believe, again, what he likes, but when it comes down to the nitty-gritty of discussions with people like Bev, he's more than willing to admit that we've got horizontal distance measurements. They'll say, horizontal distance measurements prove a globe. Again, delusional contradictions in terminology won't alter horizontal distance measurements. Saying that they prove a globe is just words from a snot-nosed adenoidal twat that would have had his head dunked down the toilet for being disingenuous. Again, you've only got to look at someone like Bev and say to yourself, if we were in a bar full of people, would people be listening to Bev going, actually, he's a meme. He's a meme with a neckbeard with the word actually next to it. People want to punch that type of person. That's just facts. Nobody likes that guy in the bar when everyone's trying to have a drink and have fun. Actually, horizontal distance measurements. Bang! Shut up! Get out of my fucking way, you snot-nosed little adenoidal twat. That's the kind of treatment people like that get when they go, actually. Nobody likes that guy. Especially when they're bullshitters. Actually, flat Earth horizontal distance measurements prove a ball. No, horizontal distance measurements are horizontal distance measurements.
Yeah, it's a contradiction.
But, you know, that's the kind of thing that betas and cucks and gammers have got to do. Suddenly convince you that they're more intellectually superior. Flex their prowess. In this case, with contradictions. Why? I don't know. Maybe Bev wants popularity. Maybe he wants to be something other than an adenoidal, snot-faced little twat. But he is, always will be, a snot-faced, adenoidal little twat that nobody likes in society. He's not going to be the centre of attention at the party. Nobody's going to glance twice at him in the bar. Here online, he can bullshit about horizontal distances being proof of a globe. They're not. As I say, it's a contradiction in terms. But it's utterly consequential. What if Bev proves that point to you? Okay, so you've accepted that measuring something horizontally means it's actually bending. Okay, you've accepted that now. And now what? That practically applied to something? No, but the horizontal distances will, won't they? But you're just not using them. Bev's not surveying the roads. He's not erecting any buildings. He's stealing valour from Euclid and making up contradictions. Horizontal distances, that's horizontal, and distance, linear in nature, are proving balls. No, definitely not. Like I say, that makes him feel important. Let him have it. Oh, do you feel special online telling people that horizontal distances prove a ball? Okay, I mean, fair enough. If that makes you feel good about yourself for a few seconds, you adenoidal snot-nosed little twat. Go away and feel good about yourself. You're still a beta twat, though, aren't you, you little neckbeard with your actually. You're a meme. Yeah, if you want to see that lion growling at people, it won't be in these Discord servers anymore. I'm sick of it. No, these people aren't pleasant. Yeah, I've heard rumours that these people want to shut me down for inciting violence. When I describe how bang, you know, had your fucking teeth knocked out for being disingenuous if you're in front of somebody in a bar. That's a hypothetical scenario where you, the beta cuck, gamma, dickhead, would get your teeth knocked out for being a disingenuous lying shitbag and talking through the person correcting you. That's what would happen. Men are very violent. It's just some men are very weak, and they're the ones that end up with their teeth being knocked down their throat. Now, that's just me describing the facts. We're animals, men. Aren't we? Now, you can say, oh, Nathan's inciting. No, I'm not. No. There's a million miles of fibre between me and you now, isn't there? But you can pretend that this is me inciting hatred. All it tells me is I don't want to be around you. You pathetic bunch of weak gammas. You can all interact with each other. Can't you? You can pretend that you're not measuring Earth flat because no one's mentioning it. Without me punching your teeth out. I don't need to be around you. Suffering the consequences of jail time because I've got some beta dick trying to show off in front of all the alphas. And that's all this boils down to. They all want my attention. I'm sick of giving it them. Yeah, just makes me feel like I want to be violent, and I'm not a violent person. You know, I can describe how these people will have been treated in high school accurately, though. They will have had their heads flushed down the bog. They would get their teeth knocked out if they tried that shit in a bar. Yakking through the top of somebody who's explaining how wrong they are. Yeah, that's what would happen to them. Now I'm going to highlight it. Like I say, they're getting away with it because of the internet. Yeah? So they need a special persona. Brave pills, I call it. That's what it all boils down to. Pathetic, sad, weak little men wanting to feel self-important. Huh? I'm going to start highlighting it. You're not. Societally, people despise you. They hate you. Okay? They find you irritating. So what? You're going to go out and find yourself a nice little position in the fantasy world of internet usage? Good for you. Do you feel a bit better? I'm here to knock you off that little pedestal too, aren't I? Pointing out that you're still a gamma little dick. That generally societally frowns upon you. Looks down on you. Probably because of your short stature and your tiny penis. That's all it boils down to. Little dick, flaccid men. Weaklings. But they want to feel important for a few minutes. With their actually, horizontal distances mean we're on a ball, actually. What? People will look at you with disgust in reality. Here online, there's lots of other little gamma dicks that can gather around you. Go, that's right, actually. Horizontal distances means ball, doesn't it? Yes. Aren't we special? No, you're not. No, you're hated societally. And you know it. That's why you hate me, because I'm pointing it out to you on the regular, aren't I? Pointing out what a bunch of little golems you are. Secretly, I'm the king. Secretly, I'm the one who told everybody about Euclid. No, Euclid was special. You're not. No, it's me. I'm the special secret king. Actually, it's because of me that everyone knows about Euclid. No, it's not. Don't be delusional. You sad little man. That is all it boils down to, I'm afraid. We're in a group full of societally shunned beaters. That's what we're surrounded by. And they need to feel special. And they've been trained, make your opponent wrong. Then you'll be right. Honestly, that's where I come in. So I can be put up on a pedestal by these beaters and gammas. Yeah, well, I'm sick of it. Sick of standing on some pedestal for these beaters. I'm no longer interested. What I will do moving forward is go out and promote my book. Now it's nearing completion. Eventually there'll be a tour de book. And when I do it, I'm going to be faced with cunts. That is to say, someone will say, yeah, I'll have you on your show. Yeah, you can promote your book that you've spent 10 years developing. Come on my show. And within 5 minutes of me being on that show, oh, by the way, I've got this guy. I'm going to introduce Cunt to you. Here's Cunt. He's going to talk through you for an hour. Have fun. Yeah, I know. I'm going to deal with that. Yeah? But when it happens, I'll be telling them about my book immediately. When I'm introduced. So we've got a guest. He's a flat earther. Can you introduce yourself? Yeah, my name is Nathan Oakley. I've got a book. It's called All Roads Lead to a Flat Earth. Go and buy it if you want to know how a flat earth got measured to create your ball face. Oh, no, you don't have to promote your book immediately. Yeah, I do, because you're probably going to bring out some wanker any minute, aren't you, that you haven't told me about? Like, you're being clever. That's what's going to happen when I go out on tour to promote my book. There'll be people who want me on that pedestal so they can bring out their lion tamer. So long as I get to promote my book, yeah, then there'll be something in it for me. But me going to these places of my own volition, so I can hear the gammas and the beaters going, actually, horizontal distances means we're on a ball. Nah, I'm sick of you. You're a bunch of beaters, and none of you are going to help me with book sales, so I don't need you anymore. Not interested in convincing you. Go ahead.
How's it going with the book anyway?
Yeah, very well. We're doing little on often. We do, I don't know, an hour or two a day. Not over the weekend. Not over the last few days even. My wife's aunt died, so she's been dealing with various different things. Funerals and family members and all sorts of other crap, hospitals. So yeah, so for the last few days we haven't done a great deal, to be perfectly honest with you, but like I say, my wife's had a lot on her plate. Big shout out to all the people who've continued to give me PayPals. So I've been able to spread that love slightly wider than it would normally. That is to say, it normally all goes in my pocket when people give me PayPals. But if you've been giving me PayPals over the last, I don't know, 3 months, 2 months, something like that, I just give them to my wife to incentivise her to help me do the editing work. So thank you very much, everybody who sends me PayPals. I really, really, really appreciate it. I've also suggested that once the book's written, I continue to do exactly the same thing by getting her to be my PA. That is to say, get her to contact various different people who would have me on their show. I mean, no doubt that that'll be the scenario. She'll be led to believe that there's going to be a nice opening for me to go on a show to talk about how flat Earth gets measured, how that conclusion's been drawn after 10 years of flat earthing. And like I say, oh, by the way, we've got Cunt here to talk to you. That's what'll happen. Inevitably, probably 1 in every 5 shows will be like that. Hey, John.
Hello.
So yeah, if you want to see Nathan the Lion getting whipped by some lion tamer, find me places to go and promote my book. That will inevitably happen. People will want to put me back on that pedestal to make me wrong about a flat earth, because then they think, deluded that they are, that making me wrong about earth being flat will mean earth gets measured anything other than flat. Because in their mind, if I'm wrong, they're right. So the lion tamer who's going to be out there whipping me means that it's a ball because I'm being proven wrong. Now, number one, I'm never going to be proven wrong. Moving forward from 2025 onwards, now in 2026, it's only ever going to be the case that you, who oppose me, will be pointed out how flat earth you require it to be. It only happened recently. I've trimmed it out. I'll probably release it shortly after this show. But Buck Sodbuster, you're privileged, mate. You're probably one of the last that'll experience that degree of my time without me getting anything out of it. Beyond views and a little bit of aspirational commentary from people who watch. But Buck Sodbuster described measuring the deviation from horizontal in a linear mile measurement for curvature. I pointed out the horizontal linear measurement of miles that you described for the drop over distance, end quote him, is flat. What did he have to do? Lie. Actually, you can get distances from a trundle wheel. Really? Really?
He
You're
was
gonna lie
saying
to
you could
yourself?
measure curve with a trundle wheel.
No, the curve is being described as drop over distance. Describe the drop from the horizontal, which is what drop is. You need the distance to be horizontal. These are just facts. Now, these aren't my facts. But if you can make me wrong about your use of horizontal distance to describe the drop from, suddenly you're right about Earth being a globe because you've got the drop from a curved trundle wheel mile measurement. These people are spastics. Buck Sodbuster is stupid. In his deluded mind, if he can make me wrong when I say, well, the horizontal distance that you've appealed to for your drop over distance is horizontal mile measurements that you need to make this claim. Suddenly, what? If I'm wrong about it, I'm reiterating his claim back to him. But in his deluded mind, if I can show Nathan's wrong and we can, hypothetically, measure distances with a trundle wheel, will that give you drop over distance? The drop's from a horizontal, that's what drop is. You can't have curve described from curve. There's nothing constant in the horizontal to describe it with a distance from. He knows that. But he also thinks, I just need to make Nathan wrong. Nah. That's me back on that pedestal, isn't it? So that I can be wrong, so he can be right. What about getting horizontal distances with trundle wheels? Okay, fine. From this point forth, okay. It's not actually horizontal distance mile measurement to have a drop described deviating from it. It's a curved trundle wheel distance and the curve described from the curve so that you can have your curve. Okay. Have it. You can have it. You're welcome to it. Good for you. Does that make you feel
What
better?
is the arc of an,
Ed?
what's the arc of an inch then?
There isn't one.
That's what I
Right.
wanted Nathan to go to, but he didn't.
Well, no, what I was asking him was, did you measure your trundle wheel distance? Well, I can. I've used a trundle wheel. Okay, give us the distance then in the trundle wheel measurement. Well, what, you want me to go out and measure it? Have I got to actually measure it? You're like, yeah, we could do this all day, couldn't we? Fun though it is, showing what a complete spastic Bug Sodbuster was fun. I mean, it did get me 1,000 views on a video. I mean, I haven't had 1,000 views on any of my live streams for quite some time. Well, now I have. Well, I mean, that's wonderful and all, but like I say, it's my own vanity that's leading me to do those things and take the whipping from the lion tamers. Yeah, I'm grabbing their whips, bringing them closer and ripping their heads off. But why? You know, I'm a lion. I don't need to be in the circus being whipped on a pedestal, do I? But I've gone into the circus of my own volition and stood on that pedestal for them, haven't I? Why? So that in their mind, they can describe trundle wheel distances instead of horizontal linear miles to describe a drop from. Well, good for you. You know, if that's what you need to make your belief real, the possibility of requiring a trundle wheel distance measurement to assert that you've got to drop over the distance that absolutely requires it be horizontal, then you can delude yourself in that way. Feel free. But it is just delusion. And that delusion is self-serving. The only reason that process is going on is so that Buck Sodbuster can sniff his own farts when he affirms his own already inexistent belief of being on a ball. That's it. Me defending against that position only serves my own vanity, so that I can feel better about defending the position of a flat. It doesn't need me to defend it, does it? What's the curvature of an inch? There isn't one. I didn't need to say that for that to be a fact. How many miles are curving on the maps? None of them. Again, it was brought up on the show on Friday. But did it need my affirmation? No, I'm just sniffing my own farts, making myself feel like I'm important. Because I'm describing how miles are? Well, they are what they are. I don't need to describe them. But I can feel important for a few minutes by doing it. And that's all this boils down to. My vanity. Now, my vanity leads me to allow my opponent to stick me on a pedestal to make me wrong so that they can be perceived to be right. And that's all it really boils down to. If I'm wrong, they're right. Not if they're right. Not if trundle wheel distances give them a horizontal mile measurement to describe a drop from. It doesn't. But if Nathan's wrong and we can acquire distances with trundle wheels, then that means I'm right by default, therefore Earth's a ball. Hooray, I win! What did you win? Did you get a speedboat? Did you get a new dartboard? What did you win? Oh, nothing. You just got to sniff your own farts for a few seconds, yeah? It's pure vanity.
Yeah, I guess, but still, I'd like to hear when I'm trying to answer that. What is the arc of an inch?
There isn't one.
Well, after he asserts that there is by saying that, he can measure curvature with that instrument, it would be nice to be given that value, wouldn't you think?
Yes.
What would we achieve? What's the goal?
What would you achieve as the audience that was listening, Nathan? I'm not debating on how you handled it. It was fine. I understood exactly what you were saying.
Audience
and you're
what?
right. But take them back to the inception of measurement, and they can't go nowhere.
But where they're going to go? Okay, I'm talking to you, the audience. This is going to lose me subscribers. It doesn't matter if you know. If I convince you that Earth is flat by way of showing you the measurements were always being utilised in that way. Now that you, the audience, know that there's no arc in an inch, what are you going to do with it? What are you, the one watching me say this right now, going to do with that information? Tell me. Right in the comment section. Well, what I'm actually going to do is build something, fly, sail, map, chart. What are you going to do with it? Anything? No, you're not. The reality is it's inconsequential if I know, and it's inconsequential if you know. If, like my sister, you go out and learn how to measure Earth flat, there's a reason, there's a practical application to that knowing. In her case, so she didn't die if she got lost out at sea on a boat. That's it. If you're going to do anything practically with these measurements, normally you've got to pay to learn how to measure Earth flat because there's a use for it, and that can be monetized. Now me, I've managed to separate this cognitively with two different hats. I'm telling you because I'm a YouTuber. That is to say, this is entertainment. Somebody told me you're a failed actor. I'm like, I'm running a YouTube channel successfully and paying the mortgage with it. That's my purpose in disseminating this information to the audience. But from a put my flat earth hat on point of view, what purpose does this serve again? Am I going to go out there and chart the world? No. Am I going to go out and fly parallel? No. Am I going to go and sail and find my fix with elevation angles? No. Am I going to measure the elevation of anything? No. So what are you going to do as the audience member who's listening to this being converted? What's to be converted to? It's not a religion. It was, is, and always will be measured flat, regardless of if you know or I know. No jobs will be lost for you finding out. But the perception that there's a group that needs to have a consensus about the measurements are what they are. Doesn't matter if you know.
Well, that's very true.
Right, so there's a certain futility to what we do then, isn't there?
Yeah. Yeah, because my belief in what something is doesn't change what it is.
Yep. But we can create an impression like the consensus understands it's a globe, therefore it's a globe. Now, because that's how you, most of the audience up until now, have perceived this situation to be, there's a group that braces against it, and there's a group that wants a unified consensus. Both use flat Earth measurements, and neither are consequential to how flat Earth gets measured in reality. So who cares? It is futile. But for a moment, you can feel special when you find out something that you believe to be true isn't. For a few moments, you get to feel special. I'm the secret king. I'm going to change the world because I know hundreds of thousands of jobs will be getting lost. Or the Dave Weiss attitude. This time next year, millions of people will know. Know what? That we deal with Earth flat and always have. We always have and always will. Didn't matter if they all knew. Wow, doesn't time fly when you're having fun? Yeah,
it was kind of a dark mood when I walked in. Did you go to politics or something?
Last Friday, yeah.
How'd that go?
We were met by a load of dweebs. Actually...
Did any of them say, well, what about in the South, Nathan?
Yeah, that happened frequently. And I got told that South is my mantra.
Go on, you got to see the humor in it, though, right?
Yeah, I do.
You know, it's like you're sitting there going, the emperor doesn't have any clothes on, and they're like, well, actually,
yeah, you keep saying your mantra. You keep telling us he's naked. Well, he is. No, you keep chanting your mantra. No, he's just naked. That's your mantra. Stop saying your mantra.
Yeah, they've tied up so much of their how they think of themselves with, you know, the ideas that come along with heliocentrism that they're going to fight it. It's like they almost have to.
I'm starting to feel embarrassed for them, frankly. I just feel it rubbing off on me, and I just don't want it anymore. Like, I'm embarrassed for my own behaviour around them. Now, don't get me wrong, on this occasion it's worked out quite nicely, and I've had a certain degree of praise for my behaviour while I'm describing how they'd get their nose broken in high school and had their heads dunked down the toilet for being irritating twats. I thought that would backfire badly, but the reality is the oppression level from the people on the Flat Earth side, the perceived group, has been so bad over the last 10 years that they hear me describing how these beta cucks would be treated in society and they all cheer. And me, I hang my head. I honestly do. I feel a sense of shame for doing that. Regardless of how much praise I get, I still have a certain degree of introspection that goes, nah, that's not who I am. Yes, I can accurately describe how these betas and gammas, pathetic cucks that they are, would be treated in high school. But is that fair? No. The fact that these sad little men would have been bullied quite severely for their actually with their neck beards isn't a reasonable way of behaving in society. I mean, it's the truth. That is how they would get treated. Now, I can smile about it. It is funny, but I still hang my head in shame. And how can I avoid that? Just don't hang around them. Good.
As long as you're capable of that retrospection, you know, you don't want to be the guy that doesn't realize you become a monster fighting monsters.
Exactly the words I use with my wife. It's exactly the words I use with my wife. So I'm like, look at this, I'm getting praise for describing how they'd have had their head flushed down the bog in high school. I'm like, I've become the monster that I'm fighting against if I carry on this path. So what do? Well, if your company is turning you into a monster, change your company.
Yeah. And I mean, really, you don't have to do that, but to sell the book, you'll probably have to do that a little bit more.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think there's going to be opportunities that arise that are sold to me or my wife acting as a PA that are suggested to be beneficial. And in reality, it's just their opportunity to say, oh, by the way, there's a cunt here to try and whip you. And they'll be like, okay, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I've metaphorically had enough gunfire to know how to cope with gunfire. So I'll just cope with it. As long as I've had the opportunity to plug my book immediately, then there's still the what's in it for me aspect gets satisfied immediately. So yeah, I'll go out, I'll go on people's shows. They'll think they're doing well by... I can't remember the name of the black guy that was put up against Dave Farina. Cream of Wheat. Professor Dave. And he's calling him sweetheart. That came up as an example. Like, that's that example. You're here as my guest. Oh, by the way, I've got a cunt to talk to you. Come on, cunt. Surprise, a cunt. Yeah, that's going to happen.
They're going to march out with their gotchas about in the South or over at this many miles. How much do you think we shouldn't see?
All I hear, though, it's like Matrix examples with Neo. The bullets that you've just described, I just go like that. Sorry, south, it's flat. That's me, bing, firing the bullet straight back at them. What's that? Miles, they're flat. They're linear directions. Your deviation from that horizontal means it must be horizontal when you describe distance in miles. So Earth's measured flat with south and miles. You want to tell me that if I understand that south is not flat and that miles aren't flat, then I can describe them as flat to describe a deviation from them to give us a ball to believe in. What say you, flat earther lion? I'm going to say that you've got flat earth prerequisites riddled in. That's what I'll get. Yak, yak, yak through the top of me. That's what I'll get. Or called sweetheart.
Nathan, you can only say, if people are asking you about the book, there's only so much you can say about the book if you was just doing a chat somewhere with somebody. I mean, they've got to read the book, haven't they? Then they'll know what it's about. You can only say, well, it's to explain how Earth is measured. It's all roads lead to a flat Earth in every instance. I mean, you can only say, I don't know if you're going to come up with a mantra about that sort of thing, but you can't go on and on about, there's only so much you can say in public about, well, it's my book, I wrote the book, it's about my journey, and it's about how Earth gets measured. I mean, buy a copy and read it. If you've got any issues thereafter, come and have a chat with me.
Yeah, I mean, there will be a bit more to it than that. I mean, you have basically summarised what the book will be about. I mean, it's essentially... The skeleton of the book was based around housekeeping questions, which aren't about how Earth's measured flat. And in the editing process, I've incorporated into the housekeeping questions how there's a realisation since, 2025, that there's flat Earth prerequisite measurements that are being utilised to describe most aspects that we formerly dealt with housekeeping questions. So there's an aspect of introducing a past tense to all of those housekeeping questions. It's interwoven with the journey via the people that are also labelled as being flat Earth. So while I was editing it the other night, maybe about 10 days ago to be more accurate, I was explaining this to my wife. While I poo-poo the notion of flat Earth being about the groups and the people, that is still the perception at mass at large that flat Earth is the group of people who perceive a belief in a flat Earth in spite of Earth being shown scientifically to be a globe. Therefore, the people that I describe my journey with, the stories and anecdotes of those interesting characters, is as much about flat Earth as society wants it to be. Therefore, has absolutely got relevance. But I can use that to my advantage and explain how, I don't know, for an example, you've got people who go out and describe how Earth's not a ball, but end up in rows over merchandise that they've got that they're flogging. and how they can fall out over that merchandise. And then upon fracturing a friendship, gain a new friendship in a group that I'm in, only to become a pervert wanking on camera to one of the female group's members. Now, that is an anecdote that people will read and go, what? Because that jumps off the page, right? Even in me describing it in the most concise and simplistic way I can describe it. When you read that in my book, you'll be like, my God, you were surrounded by very strange people. You're like, yeah, that was intentional. I can spin that into the necessity to make Flat Earth about wankers in the most literal way. Because it's true, and I can give an example of it. Wankers that are here to prop up the notion of Earth being flat, rather than us going, well, it's just measured flat. Now, in between the chapters that are anecdotal about people and how they behave towards one another, in this instance masturbating on webcam, I can describe how flat Earth is required to give you prerequisites like axes through flat non-inertial turning reference frames. So I can describe how flat is a necessity for a ball faith, whilst incorporating the false impression that Flat Earth is about people, with anecdotes that are interesting. So in my humble opinion, the book is going to be absolutely brilliant. That is to say, when you're reading it, you won't want to put it down. You'll want to affirm your already tacit understanding of certain heliocentric aspects. You'll want it to affirm your now new understanding of how Earth gets measured, but you'll want it to recognise why you're in the awful position of being challenged as an individual when you profess to the facts that Earth's measured flat. Why is it that suddenly you get challenged? Well, because you need to be that wanker. You need to have the projection of others onto you incorrect so that they can be right. All of those concepts and notions are gone through in the book in a way that hopefully is digestible by all, from housewives through to the heliocentric so-called experts on our opposing side. Each and every one of them will hopefully appreciate that my dissemination of the information they believe in, that's flat Earth measurements turned into globe Earth beliefs, are accurate, along with my descriptions of the journey that I've taken to the realisation that Earth is measured flat, and in reality it's not all that serious. It's not actually that big a deal, and in fact, now that you've got to the end of the book, you can go out and sniff your own farts, knowing something that next man doesn't, but it won't change how Earth is measured. It was flat all the time anyway. So you get to the end of the book and go, so it was flat all along. I actually already appreciate it because I paid attention in geography class and I've used a map before. Therefore, nothing changes and me knowing is inconsequential. Yeah, it's not that big a deal. Yeah? It seemed like it when you first opened the book and were horrified that it said all roads lead to a flat Earth. They do. From conspiratorial idiots talking about the subject like they know something, to the end result of you appreciating that Earth was always and always will be dealt with as a flat plane. The in-between is you feeling special and warm and gooey about you being special because you know for a fact that Earth is measured flat. Yeah, but it didn't matter, did it? You weren't about to go out and build anything. And if you were, you'd have drawn up blueprints with respect to planes of references. You'd have acquired your elevation with respect to the sea level, and you'd have erected the building perpendicular to said plane. But you're not. You're not building anything. You're not going out and measuring the sea, charting the world, or planning a path based on a fix you got from measuring the stars with angles from a flat plane. You will probably not do any of those things in your lifetime. So finding out that the Earth is flat, and knowing it at the end of my book for sure and without a doubt, will potentially be an enlightening experience, but one that you can discard at the end of the process without concern, without feeling like suddenly you've got to go out and profess this information to the next man. Because what difference would that make? You telling next man that they're wrong about being on a ball won't make it right that Earth is flat. The measurements are flat anyway. So you don't need to make next man wrong, and being right won't change the measurements.
You know, pointing out the emperor's naked, though, still, that emperor's naked. You know, like, he's going to have to deal with that sometime.
Yeah. I mean, I absolutely will, without a doubt and for sure, make my audience or person reading the book, whatever you call that person. What do you call somebody who's reading a book? Reader. Make the reader aware that, by metaphor, the emperor's got no clothes. The earth is flat. That's how it's dealt with. And that'll be abundantly clear by the time you've read the end of my book, because it'll have been reiterated to you no less than 100 times by the time you get to the end of the pages. So people are going to be acutely aware of how flat Earth is by the end of reading my book. Now, that won't change that there's going to be people who get my book and go, I'll have him on and tell him he's wrong after spending 3 minutes with it. That's what'll happen. I know what's going to happen. And they won't want to tell me I'm wrong because they won't have the information to do so. They'll go and find a cunt to put in front of me. Surprise! I've got a cunt! Yeah, I've met plenty of cunts. Yeah, I've dealt with them for 10 years. So this isn't going to be a big deal. But fortunately, I've already promoted my book and told your audience how Earth's measured flat in it. And that they'll find out by reading it and buying it. So as long as I get that opportunity when I'm out on the road touring, I won't care that people are wheeling out some cunt to tell me that I'm wrong so they can feel like they've been proven right. Like I say, I've dealt with it for 10 years. It's not going to be a surprise. It will happen 1 in 5 visits.
Like you said on the thing, I mean, there is no evidence that Earth has not been measured flat, is there? I mean, that's the best housekeeping question. I mean, that's how you should end the book, with that housekeeping question.
That's malformed as hell.
Yeah. Is there any evidence that Earth is measured anything other than flat? That actually killed the housekeeping question. Do you realise that, right? That question killed the rest of the housekeeping questions.
Yep.
The housekeeping was kept because there was a perception that these debating points were necessary. But they weren't. They were only necessary to keep the perception of a debate alive. So when you appreciate for sure and without a doubt that Earth is measured flat, it makes all other aspects of flat earthing redundant.
Barely palpable background noise is what I'd call it.
Barely palpable background noise. Yeah. Arguing about axial rotation or Earth curve or distances to the sun. You're like, when you dig down into the nitty-gritty of any of these questions, what you find as a foundation for all of them are flat Earth measurements. So the only reason you can have the housekeeping questions is if you ignore the flat Earth prerequisites that the housekeeping questions, malformed or otherwise, are based upon. Right, with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Programming streams, stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So, another massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
But when you measure it flat, it contradicts that. I'm spitting flat facts and that. And I know you don't like that. Google Maps is flat, it presents elevation profiles like that. I'm a spitting flat earth king. Sentence has a ring, doing my own thing. If Earth was a big roast chicken, factually finger licking chicken. We just got the measurements missing. I'm spitting eggs and begs, begging the question lesson. I've said it before, time after time. I'm the spitting flat earth king of rhyme.